too.
Yeah, no.
Shit.
Well, I mean,
I was ruining the
Zionism.
content.
No. I was just saying, like, Zionism. It's a political ideology. Like, there's plenty of people who are
As I was
genetically.
saying, the word Zion was hijacked by the Zionist. So I consider myself a true Zionist.
What's the original definition of it?
Someone who follows the Torah and believes in Hashem and his sages.
Oh, okay. My bad. All right. So, David, like, do you support the existence of a state of Israel, or is it like just your issue with the political leadership in current Israel, or like, what's your why would you consider yourself anti-Zionist?
I mean, it's theological. I'm not involved. I don't think my opinion really matters. That's how I was taught by my rabbis. I guess I'm against the idea. I think it's I think it's a fallacy. I think it's bad for multiple reasons. I mean, you could interpret it from universal enlightenment. So I oppose it largely due to Palestinian human rights abuses and opposition to ethno-nationalism, which are not religious, theological. Like, so the rabbis that oppose Zionism don't oppose Zionism because of Palestinian human rights abuses or opposition to ethno-nationalism. They oppose it for theological reasons. So, I mean, I also probably oppose it for theological reasons and think it's largely not necessary. It's a cause of eternal strife. I could go on forever about the problems with Zionism, but it's an unpopular position among Jews. It's not well understood among Jews, and I would say also, like, there's this new book out by Shaul Magid, who said, like, Zionism someone's like a misnomer, because, like, really, like, to be a Zionist now, you actually oppose the current state of Israel, because Zionism already succeeded. Like, if you say, well, Zionism was the desire to have a Jewish state, there is already a Jewish state. It's been around for years, and to believe, just like I believe the current state of Israel should continue, is not really a strong claim. So if you're still Zionist in terms of in today, usually it means like the continuing Judeo project of continuing to take over the West Bank or to Judaize all of Israel, or from a religious connotation, it means that the state of Israel shouldn't be a secular democracy and should be turned into a theocracy, the reestablishment of the monarchy, the House of David, rebuilding the temple, making the legal precedents of Israel the Torah. So,
well, this is I don't know. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but you and me were on a stream around this time last year at what's that? It's like that black stream that's always on. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Those guys out of London, the
yes, the Black London people. It's like a music thing, but there's always political debates going on there. You know what I'm talking about?
A while ago. Like, yeah, I mean, it might have even been more than a year ago, but
well, it might have been, but I remember vaguely what you said there because it just stuck out to me. Like, you said, like the Jews have a problem with the Arabs' existence, and the Arabs have a problem with the Jews' existence. So we should just come together and fight it out, and then, like, see what happens from there.
Well, it's zero sum. So, it's kind of like, it make more sense. Like, okay, if we're enemies and eventually one of us is going to have to kill the other, we might as well just do it now. So,
right.
Right. So from that perspective, you're saying, well, it's zero sum, and it's going to be settled on the battlefield, and basically only one side could survive. Putting it off just is not beneficial to either side, because you're saying, like, so
get it over with would be your.
Yeah, a lot of these disputes, like I'm saying, if we're arguing, like, okay, like, I mean, you're in England.
I'm in America.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a case like, okay, like, I support multiculturalism and immigration, and you oppose it, and it's just like, well, we could agree to disagree, or we say like, no, that makes you my mortal enemy, and therefore we should fight to the death. And so, well, if that's the case, we might as well just do it right now.
Right.
And
So your policy is race war now, basically. Just
God
get it over
forbid.
with.
well, no, I'm just saying that if you determine the thing zero sum, if there's going to be conflict, um, I would say no. I mean, I oppose conflict. I would try to avoid conflict. But in the case where
Where conflict is inevitable.
yeah, I mean,
Like
saying
we
just yeah, it's a just it deteriorates from both sides to have the prolonged conflict. And saying if it is mortal conflict, in the sense that I mean, it just makes both people's life miserable. So, but no, I'm saying just recognizing that that's the case, and in the vast majority of cases, that people aren't going to kill each other right at the moment, then to resolve the dispute in a way, just say, well, either agree to disagree, move on, or try to kill me. You'll see what happens.
right. But
You know,
like, what about like in the case
one
where
of the
they
two.
are just like immediately killing each other, but it's like a low
It's
level,
like, no,
like
I'm
not
going to
even
kill you, but it's going to take a little while. And it's
well,
like,
not even like Israel Palestine. Let's forget about that right now. Let's say like Armenia Azerbaijan. You know, there's always like low level violence between these two countries. So do you think they should just like get it over with and just go at it till one of them dies, or what?
well, no, I think they should resolve the dispute.
Right. Well,
And just
that's funny because
just by the point that they're not going to kill it, like the point that they're not going to kill each other right away is um the evidence that they should resolve the dispute, like agree to disagree or make concessions. So
right.
well, no, I'm not going to agree to disagree. I'm not going to make concessions. Well, I'm going to eventually kill you. So I said, well, you might as well just do it now. What's if that's what you're going to do? Like, you might. What's the advantage of waiting?
Do you think that
And
that's
it's like, well, you're not
do you
you're
think
not
that
going to do it now
basically
because you don't think you'd be successful, or you're scared, or something like that. Well, if you don't think you're going to be successful, or you're scared, like what makes you think in the future you're gonna be successful? And if you know that the case, so I mean, generally it's the way conflict resolution, the escalation, uh, you know, airy stance. You know, say like, well, you like, fight it out or get over with it. And even in Israel right now, like I mean, God forbid, it just makes the situation worse. And so it's like, okay, like if you're going to do the ethnic cleansing or genocide, just get it over with. The longer uh, extension, the suffering, the indecisiveness just makes it worse for everybody.
yeah,
And it shows the indecision that that's not really what they're going to do.
yeah. Israel's I'll say this: Israel's like basically pittering their feet or whatever. Like their indecisiveness is largely why the world is turned against them right now. Like they could have gotten away with this if they were just a bit more quick and not so drawn out with it. To be honest.
Yeah, but if they were going to drive the Palestinians into the Sinai Peninsula, do an expulsion, even a ground invasion, like a real ground invasion, they should have done.
Netanyahu could have nipped this in the bud 20 years ago.
Well, no, I mean, because there's really no solution to this. So
Well, other than genocide.
well, it's saying if you're saying God forbid, if you're saying
God
if they're
forbid.
going to do a genocide, that they probably should have done it a long time ago. The fact that they haven't done it,
I
although
don't mean genocide. I mean ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing. That's sorry, slip of the tongue.
well, they come hand in hand because so I mean, God forbid, it could the situation in Israel could devolve into genocide because
Yeah, but what about the fact that they can just move them to a country where they're still technically the same ethnicity, same religion, same language?
well, unfortunately, the only country they could really move them to is the United States or the UK or Germany. I mean, if they go anywhere,
Or someone like Iran or Russia, like really
Not
putting the foot
Iran, not
down.
Iran. They don't
no,
belong in Iran. They won't fit
no, I
in
mean,
Iran.
yeah, I mean,
No. But my point is like if Iran like starts to get like really, really like putting the foot down, or they're like, this is gonna stop, or we're gonna have some big
That would
conflict
make
ahead of
my
us.
family is Iranian. I'm Persian. I'm a Persian rabbi. My family's Persian. That would cause a lot if like a bunch of Arabs moved into Iran, like that of the Palestinians. There will be huge issues.
well, just on a practical mechanism, like if they, in all probability, if they get pushed out of Gaza, they're coming to the West, and they're coming mostly to America, and that's probably why Israel hasn't went forward with doing it, and the American Jewish support. So I mean, in like actual legal mechanism, Like, for example, if they get pushed out into the Sinai Peninsula, they automatically then they'll gain refugee status, and then they'll have the right to seek refuge in the West. The other countries don't have treaties like that; they're not going to accept them. But once, if Israel did force them into the Sinai Peninsula, they would have the legal right to migrate to the West. So I mean, you could hypothesize like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they could get Egypt to take them? But once they become refugees, then they have the legal right to come here to the West. So you might want to change that the laws here in the United States, but that's just a wishful thinking that you'll be able to do that. But legally,
Do you think like the Israel ethnic what's it called, ethnic cleansing is inevitable in Palestine, or you think it's going to stop, or what's your take on this?
I tend to think Israel's kind of in. Are we live? Where are you live at?
The Cube YouTube channel.
Oh, the
There's
Cube.
only like one viewer right now. It's
Yeah,
like
I heard
1
about
a.m.
the Cube from someone. Was it you or someone came on a week in review? Was it?
Steven, I believe.
No, it was a Pill Eater. Or was it Pill Eater? Maybe someone else, but it doesn't. Okay, yeah. So God bless the Cube. I was mentioning the movie series, The Cube. But
Yeah, I've never seen them.
the kind of like horror, science fiction.
Is the cube supposed to be a reference to Mecca or something? Is the cube
No,
a metaphor?
no.
Is it a metaphor? Is it a metaphor for Mecca?
No. It's actually
That would be so deep.
it's actually like a really fucking funny thing. It's like
Don't say the F word. Dude doesn't like the F word. Please.
no. So I apologize. No, it's like a really funny thing of someone posted someone posted like this weird sexual thing called the cube, and we all like started joking, calling the group chat that, and then a guy called Street Maxer, who is another Jewish person of another Jewish individual, made a bunch of videos doing some things while shouting out the cube name, and it just stuck after that because we thought it was funny.
Yeah, I tend to
Who
look at Israel.
introduced the term the cube? Was it the Jew?
Yes, the Jew.
Oh, then
Yes,
it's
he's
not a reference to Mecca.
yeah, no. He's kind of the one who like cemented
it's like
it.
from a porn. Is that what I'm getting correct?
Kinda. It's like
Oh, he's like inverting it. So that's so Jewish. And taking things of sacredness and like inverting it.
well, I mean, this Jewish individual, he like made videos of himself wanking while screaming out the cube
God
because he thought it
forbid.
was funny.
Wanking is a horrible sin.
Yeah. He's not a religious Jew. He rather hates religion, but he
Well,
is an
obviously, if
interesting.
you're gonna, do that in mockery of the Torah, so
Yeah, well, he speaks Hebrew, which is interesting because like
yeah.
sometimes he prays in Hebrew and stuff on his live streams, which is
Is he Ashkenazi or Sephardi? Do you know?
a mix of both.
Mix of both. He probably has some Israeli heritage.
Well, he is an Israeli nationalist. He supports the
Oh,
Nakba,
okay.
and he thinks we should nuke Gaza. That's his political takes on that.
I don't care for to align myself. I don't believe in this whole the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I keep my enemies far away.
Yeah,
It's also a problem of Zionism that puts Jews together like that to be on the same side, and even say like, okay, like just some random Jew, we're on the same side. There's a war. Yeah, I tend to look at Israel as kind of incompetent. So I don't think Israel really knows what they're doing. I mean, there's some competent people in Israel, but the political system, it's a disaster. Most Jews don't know their own religion. Most Israelis are kind of in a bubble, and they kind of want to be tough. And at the end of the day, they're just basically killing and picking on homeless Palestinians, and it's created a disaster. They've put themselves in a situation they probably won't be able to extract themselves from. So at a certain point, it may turn out that they will actually commit genocide because they have no other choice. Israel had probably, there's a lot of evidence from the beginning that Israel did want to do an ethnic cleansing.
Yes. I've read Ian Pompey's book on the subject. I'd recommend.
Yeah. Well, even the U.S. was probably complicit in it from right after October 7th. And the State Department's even planned, like Biden's original letter even had overt mention that they were going to try to pressure Egypt to take Palestinian refugees. There had been pushed certain plans, certainly by Israel, but even by the State Department, that the goal was to send hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees to the various Arab nations. But the Arabs directly opposed that. And then, God forbid, right after the initial bombing of the hospital, that like the first week of the war,
The
the
Hamas one or the Israeli one?
but still undetermined, but that Blinken that they canceled meetings. So when President Biden first went to Israel, he was supposed to host a summit with like Egypt and Jordan leaders. And after the bombing of the hospital, the Egyptian and Jordanian leaders backed out of the summit. But there was documents from the State Department that one of the things the summit was supposed to push from the very beginning was the resettlement of Gazans into Egypt and Jordan. So I think that was the original plan. Um, there's probably pressure, like if you see the Israeli polling or certain statements that like over half of Israelis still think that the solution will only come from the expulsion of the Gazans, and most of them think that they're going to end up in Egypt or Jordan, but they've held a pretty firm line on it, and likely Israel would have to declare war on Egypt or Jordan to do that. And so, like I said, like just the legalities of it, they can't force Egypt to take the Palestinians. However, once the Palestinians actually become refugees, they have the legal right to come to the West because that's the way our legal system is set up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't actually need some sort of governmental act like for like I mean you appreciate what I'm saying, that you don't like
No, I understand perfectly.
we're members of these refugee treaties. Jordan and Egypt aren't. So if they push hundreds of thousands of Gazans, right now they're not refugees, but if they push them out of Gaza into the Sinai Peninsula, then they become refugees, and then they have the legal right to come to the West.
Yeah, but that could backfire majorly 'cause, like, a lot of Jews in the West, like, then they have voting power in Western or not a lot of Jews, sorry,
I think that's what
Palestinians.
American Jews have seen,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
American Jews aren't as they don't want to take. Really, what should happen from that level is American Jews should trade our place with the Gazans, and let the Gazans come here, and we would go to Israel. But like with the protests and the rising anti-Semitism, and it's the opposite. There, like way more Israelis are coming to America than the other way around. So American Jews, you basically got the cold foot, the cold feet to push through with it because they don't really want to go to Israel and they don't want the Gazans coming here, so they weren't able to back that venture, and so Israel has just been in this perpetual endless war where they're not really accomplishing anything. Like from the perspective, like Israel hasn't really accomplished anything useful for themselves from the whole battle. Israel was too scared to do a full ground invasion. Like when it first started, there were all the military experts, and they were talking about.
Like 300,000 IDF going into Palestine, right? That's what or,
Well, they called up 300,000 IDF, but like IDF hasn't really sent in more than like 1,000 soldiers at a time. So like if the IDF, the estimates were the IDF would lose like 10 to 50,000 troops to do a full ground invasion and clear Gaza of Hamas. But they haven't done that, and then the likelihood that they're going to do that is close to zero because they didn't have the appetite for the losses. Like, I mean, if you consider like Russian Ukraine and Advika, or these various cities, both sides lost tens of thousands of troops, and they actually went and took the trench war and took the territory street by street. So Israel mostly relied on bombing and special missions, but they haven't, and like bulldozing or the technicalities. They haven't actually done a ground invasion. They're at this point, it's almost certainly they're not going to do it. So likely at the beginning, um, Israel was planning to do an actual ground invasion. However, you know, Israel just not willing to take those kind of casualties. They could have. They had 250,000 troops outside of Gaza. They could have. Israel might have lost 10, 20,000 troops, but they would have been able to, get all the tunnels, get all the military encampments. But because they didn't really accomplish anything. They might have killed a significant number of Hamas fighters, destroyed some of the encampments, but they're not going to destroy Hamas. Eventually, they're going to pull out, and Hamas is going to be take back the territory. And even like the reports are unclear, like in northern Gaza, that Hamas has still a significant amount of territory and has retaken the majority of the territory that the IDF pulled out of. That's what's happening with the the humanitarian aid. So what Israel basic strategy now is, even Ralph basically said this on my stream like a few months ago, that basically they just want to starve them, and they're willing to accept mass civilian casualties and say, because Israel doesn't want to lose thousands, tens of thousands of Israelis going through the tunnel, going building to building. So they just want to do a siege and starve them out. But the problem is sieges like that take years, and the humanitarian aid. So like the civilian casualties, Israel becoming a pariah state, the plausible genocide, the huge protests, and so Israel's kind of this.
It's going to backfire on them.
Well, I mean, because it's half-assed, because it's backfiring because everyone's turning against Israel. They've killed countless like innocent civilians, and they haven't really accomplished any useful military goals. Like Israel would be in a better situation if they never invaded Gaza. Like after October 7th, they could have just taken back the territory to Gaza and then used Iron Dome to, like let them fire their rockets and negotiated. And 5 months into the war, they said, well, what did they gain? Nothing. They just killed a bunch of innocent people. And so because they're in this disaster, because they have incompetence, and most Americans have this fallacy that Netanyahu is the problem, when like the reality is Netanyahu is a moderate, like the right and left of it, even like Gantz and the centrist are more militaristic. Like Netanyahu is on the right because he's semi-favors the Haredim, the religious, the draft exemption, and the settlements. But at least in terms of the military operation in Gaza, Netanyahu is actually a moderate. And even the centrists like Lapid and Gantz would actually be more militaristic, more willing to inflict civilian casualties, humanitarian disasters than Netanyahu. But I mean, compared to American Jews, Netanyahu might be an extremist, but compared to Israelis, he's a moderate. So if Netanyahu goes, Israel will fall into complete disarray. And if the U.S. stops supporting Israel to have this kind of push, like, okay, you better not commit genocide, because if you do, we're not going to support you anymore. God forbid, Israel could fall into complete disarray to the point where they actually will commit genocide.
Yeah, don't want that. This has been out of left field. Do you think that disabled people should be able to have sex with prostitutes?
I'm a libertarian politically. I mean, I would say it's a sinful activity. I mean, you just asked me, do you think people should, like, I would recommend against sin in any form.
Of course, but like legally,
from a legal perspective, like, should sin be illegal? I would generally take, the ahimsa principle, non-harm, and libertarianism. So like the level of harm. So legally, I would allow it. I mean, I would say like it's sinful activity. I would recommend against it, both from the disabled person's perspective and the prostitute's perspective. But legally, I would allow it.
Right. That's more or less the same answer that you just gave me. What else do I want to? Okay, so let me think. You're an American Jew. You're an American Jew. What would you say the majority of American Jews think about the current Israeli thing, or at least the American Jews that you know? Like, do they support the war? Do they like?
There's a huge divide. I mean, like, so you have organized Jewry of various forms that about half of American Jews are part of organized Jewry, meaning that they're part of a Jewish organization, which you could be like a member of a synagogue, a member of a federation, so, even something like the ADL. I mean, the ADL actually has membership, but you wouldn't necessarily be like a member of the ADL. You would be a member of the federation. The federation would be a partner with the ADL, and that could just mean like the JCC. But most often, it's synagogue membership that you're actually like a paying member. So Orthodox has its subculture, like it's also organized in its own way, but it has a different organization. But you would say like generally organized Jewry is fully gung ho, supportive of Israel, though there's elements that are questioning it, like and most of those kind of buy the lie, like though it's just Netanyahu the problem, and they think that Israel's inherently good, and they believe the propaganda and lies. The other half of American Jews that are unaffiliated, um, you're going to have all types. Like 25% are probably leaning liberal, and they don't want anything to do with it. They're not part of organized Jewry. They don't need Israel. They don't care about Israel. They take a maybe a idealistic stand against Zionism, that they oppose ethno nationalism, they oppose Palestinian human rights abuses. Um, but you probably have another certain element of unorganized Jewry that still identifies with Israel, still might have distant family or cousins, and maybe just doesn't give a crap. Maybe they, are white, um, white passing, white identified, and or economically they just see they're not really that concerned with the liberal ideas of universal humanism, human rights abuses, anti ethno nationalism, and they're more, you're looking at their own best interest, and they say there's no real interest in siding with the Palestinians. So you still have a lot of unorganized Jews, and then of the organized Jews, you have people at different levels, where they go, this looks bad, this looks really really bad, but they're still going to go. They're not going to buck the trend, and organized Jewry is pretty top heavy. So if you're part of organized Jewry, like you might be a member and vote. So like if you're part of organized Jewry, you pay membership into some organization, and that organization probably has a board of directors and votes. Most rabbis, besides for Orthodox, they have elections and vote, but it's just one vote, and the organizations are very top heavy, and the top heavy part of the organization is basically going to be supportive of Israel no matter what it does.
Right, right, right.
Um, Although you could have rebellion.
So you would say that it's like more or less a 50-50 split between organized Jewry and unorganized Jewry?
Yeah, and this is all-time lows. Like say, like at some point it was probably like 90% of Jews in America were part of a Jewish organization. So if it's only 50% now, that's the least it's ever been in American history. That Jews, uh, 'cause historically, um, most Jews belong to synagogues, and so like if only half of Jews in the whole United States are actually synagogue members, that's the lowest it's ever been. And the number might be increasing because of the decline of Reform and conservative Judaism. So there's really, to somewhat like Reform had a principled stance at some point that was anti-Zionistic, because the concept was we were Reformed, we rejected, we're still Jews, we don't want to be Christian, we value our heritage, but we understand that our ancestors, the religion is basically false. Our ancestors just did the best that they knew with the time to understand the world. And post Enlightenment, the Enlightenment values are more important, and that would include the rejection of the concept of Zionism. Like we don't desire to go back to Israel. We don't want to rebuild the temple. We don't want an ethno-nationalist country. We want to be good Westerners. And so once Israel was founded and strong, and pro-Zionism um, became the mainstream position, even in Reform, then Reform serves no purpose anymore. Because, like, well, if you're reforming Judaism, saying that like you think it's false, you want your lot to be in the West, then um, a Reformed synagogue that is Zionist and supports Israel doesn't serve any purpose, and they've died out. And also conservative Judaism, like that Israel has become so powerful that the Haredi, the Orthodox, define Judaism. So if you're going to be part of a organization that isn't accepted as legitimate Judaism, what's the purpose? So that's the caused either people like me and Judas who moved to Orthodoxy because
Right,
they
right.
what's the purpose of me being involved of an illegitimate form of Judaism? So if I'm going to be involved in Judaism, I want to be involved in the only Israeli recognized form of Judaism, which is Orthodoxy, or I'm just going to become unaffiliated. So that's but because Orthodox Judaism is such a huge strain on your life, it basically is all encompassing every aspect of your life.
And you have to live within a community, or else you're sure to fail as a Jew.
Yeah, so I mean, like 2 out of 3 Jews that were some of the Orthodox. Okay, they have big families that might be increasing, but generally, from the Jews leaving conservatism and Reform Judaism, um, over 80% of them are going to unaffiliated, and only 10, probably 1 out of 10 is going to be like me and Judas and actually go for Orthodoxy.
Right, right. I definitely see how I def I definitely see how like the what am I looking for? How the shift towards orthodoxy works, because even myself, who is a Christian, like even that, like the more I look at the older churches, the more I'm like, like if the older you get, the more correct it is. That would be the most correct.
Although because the demands of Orthodoxy are much less, the demands of Orthodox Christianity are much less than the demands of Orthodox Judaism, you might have a higher number, although the numbers may be the same. You have Christians, maybe only 1 out of 10 American Christians are moving towards Orthodoxy, and half of Christians are moving towards secularism. That might be comparable. So I mean, your choice here is go. Do you really want to be part of a church that means nothing? So either you just become atheist, secular, or some form of like you could choose and pick from different traditions, Eastern traditions, New Age, uh, internationalism, uh, but a certain element will move to Orthodoxy. So maybe that's why we're talking. So me and Judas, move towards Orthodoxy, but the majority of Jews have moved towards unorganized, unaffiliated, secular.
Right, right. Um,
But they have no knowledge, so it becomes very difficult for Jews because
yes.
they have no knowledge of Judaism. Then we have identity issues because, like, well, what's your identity? That's why you have.
Yeah, I just want to say, like 7 out of 10 American Jews is married to a Gentile.
Yeah.
Well, you have identity crisis. I mean, even like Lewis, you're gonna like, or John. So I mean, John, like, okay, we've been speaking for years. You're like, like I've seen your identity crisis. Like, so moving from like ethno-nationalist to Muslim to but it's the basic, okay, like your basic
I would
identity.
call it transitions.
Transition. That's what I'd call it.
My
Well,
journey
it's
is
identity
ascended.
crisis.
My journey is to God. It's not to a group. I could
John
use
Bennett is
groups.
not married to any
I
ideology.
could use the groups for my own ascension. But basically, I'm just a based agnostic now at this point. So I recognize that there is wisdom in all of the Abrahamic faiths, but I'm not going to tie myself to any dogmatic faiths or leadership where I have to either denounce or be for something.
Yeah, I mean,
I
John
think
is
at this
likely
point
to
of the
choose the
stage,
same
it's,
path. You're
Yeah.
likely to choose the same path that I have, and is probably the biggest element of Jews or Christians that leave their faith and have to find a new identity, and that becomes the pick and chooseism of best practices. So like, I'm not really anything. I just pick and choose from these various things and put it together in a way that makes no sense to other people. So like, if you're buddies with John or something like that, like one day he's Muslim, one day's this, one day's that, and it makes no sense. But from his perspective, he's just like picking and choosing the best from what he sees that get ahead. And probably like 25% of Americans, 25% of American Jews, that's what we're doing. We're just picking and choosing and this mesh of things that doesn't make sense to anybody. And that's why with national identity crisis also. You agree with that assessment, John?
Yeah, like I to me, like
you're just picking and choosing best practices to the best of your ability.
Oh, yeah.
And because you really have no other option. If if Lewis, maybe you've moved in. Okay,
like to me, like I think like all religions are just like they tie you down to like it's almost like they want to guilt you into being something.
Well, I mean,
Lewis, that's kind of the point.
You're more considering moving towards orthodoxy.
That's just like the logical conclusion I've kind of come, because like Catholics always argue.
You're going to have to do what me and John are doing, or you just have to pick and choose random things from all sorts.
Now let me preface this and say that.
Well, John, it's almost like religion is an evolutionary benefit to kind of shape people into things that are good for surviving, and it's kind of like that's the point of religion.
Yeah, I mean, there is a point. I mean, yeah, you do need to have something to call the masses with. But when it comes to the individual, I think that the individual soul has to go on its own journey when it's called upon by a higher source, and that may not make sense to religious leaders or
you have to like.
It makes sense. It's very new age, of you, John.
No. It's agnostic. It's an agnostic point. I can't. There's just no way that I could just.
So you're just wandering.
Keep being invested into the news cycle, and always having to pick a side, or always having to denounce somebody or be for somebody who in hindsight is probably just a puppet anyway. So
it leads to globalism.
Why would I want to be a nationality? Why would I want to be a? You know what I mean? But I mean, we're all controlled. When you pick a side, you are controlled, and the people who are in charge collect our data and they control us in a certain way, even if we don't like it.
Judas,
even
when you get a chance
in the Bible that the beast will know you more than you know yourself.
Okay. What were you saying, Lewis?
I was saying, Judas, when you get a chance to, can you send David a link to this channel?
Yeah, I'll do that right now, actually.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. That just sounds very new age, very hippie-ish to me personally.
Well, by saying that's common. That's the direction. So the half of unaffiliated Jews, a lot of so you have that identity crisis. That's why you have so many Jews involved in wokeism, homosexuality, globalism, the various ideologies. And
but Jews have been involved in this since before. What's it called? Since before.
Well, you could say the same thing about the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has been involved in controlling people and suppressing
but we can't say the same thing about. No. But John Vance, we can't say the Catholic Church was behind wokeism and these kinds of things. We can't say that. I'm talking to David specifically. Like you said, that's the cause of
the Pope promotes wokeism.
Unaffiliated Jews. It's Jews that left the. It's Jews that left Judaism.
Whenever I see
Jesus was a Jew.
Whenever I see a Catholic, there's a Catholic school in my city for kids, and whenever I see it, I run past and I shout stuff like, "The Pope is a Satanist! The Pope is a Satanist!"
Well, this is this is the modern age. I'm talking about like 80, 100 years ago, as David was talking about. Like,
but it's the same thing today as it was then. That the Jews who created like Bolshevism or the sexual revolution, the Weimar Republic, or even Christianity were Jews who left the mainstream, became unorganized, and then created new movements like the Jewish revolutionary spirit. And then
why do you think that is? Why do you think that it is that when Jews leave the mainstream of Judaism, they create these movements and these ideals?
Well, Judaism is a very strong identity that influences the person once they leave. And then also you're still a Jew because it's also somewhat like ethnic. So if you're, as opposed to like, John or Lewis, if you leave your Christianity, what are you? Well, it's different than a Jew. So like,
well, John left his Christianity behind a long time ago.
But saying if you're a Jew, you're still a minority. You're still not part of the mainstream. So like if and that's why the identity crisis for a Jew is stronger than the identity crisis for a typical white person when they lose their faith, because you're still a Jew ethnically. You're out of your own um, comfortability of your people, and you're still a minority. So like then you have nothing, so to say. You're just a single unit in society, and so that enhances the revolutionary spirit to create revolutionary movements.
Right, right. And I guess you could say that Jews who leave Judaism are simply trying to recreate the identity they had, but through political means.
Well, you could argue that also. But I'm saying the Jew just has to struggle to survive. So, like, if you're a Jew and you leave the organized Jewry, what do you have? So you might still have some connection. So you still have something as long as you have a connection to the Jewish community. But once you sever yourself from the organized Jewry, then you're just you as an individual, and you as an individual that doesn't belong in larger society. So like, okay, Jews have a place in society. There might be anti-Semitism or people that don't like us there, but there's a place for Jews in society. So once you leave that Judaism, you no longer have a place in society. So it's like, well, I'm not going to be Christian. I'm not going to be like the Goyim. So the tendency to create revolutionary movements and the tendency for Jews to group together and work together so that you have subversive or revolutionary movements that are largely made up of Jews with the goal of changing society.
Right, right. So you would say that
It's partially based on being a minority, and you just have to fight to have your place in society. And
yeah,
you could only have that place in society by changing it. As opposed to you or John, if your place in society, even if you leave the church, is more secure than the Jew who leaves their Judaism.
Right, right. Well, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. But like you would agree with the fact that the many of the early communists and Bolsheviks were Jewish or Jewish oriented or former Jews, as it were.
Yeah, I'm saying that this process. So there's also then of the larger organized Jewish community. So let's say okay, like Duvider, Judas leaves the Jewish community, and so we have no choice to just like struggle to make it our own with the Goyim, and we have a little bit of success, and then the organized Jewish community has a benefit to try to draw our success back into the organized community. So to say, if I achieve power, because if I'm just an individual Jew that has to make my way on my own with the Goyim, and then somehow I rise to the top of a segment of the Goyim, then if the Jewish community could draw me and that movement back into it, it grew in power to the larger organized Jewish community. So that's always a factor, and I mean it could be that way of any minority or any group, and it plays Jewish revolutionary movements, and then there's some interplay between even you could say like okay, like the homosexual, the woke, the Bolsheviks, all these movements that are contrary to Judaism, but they're Jews who have gained power and created movements that then they could negotiate that power with the collective of the larger organized Jewry, and especially with Zionism. So like at this point, it's just like, well, if you're an unaffiliated Jew, it's like, well, Israel needs you. Israel's at war, and all you have to decide is, do you support Israel or do you support or not? Do you and so you could be, well, you could be secular, you could be gay, you could be woke, and these various things. Well, you could be that in Israel too. So that you have the power to.
Tel Aviv is the gay capital of the world.
Well, so there is an interplay between these subversive or revolutionary Jewish movements and the larger organized Jewish community.
What's now what if a Jewish person is successful on YouTube and they deny any any contribution, any of their successes, their riches towards the Jewish community? What would be the consequences of that Jew? Because there is like radical individualist Jewish people. I don't know if you heard of Lex Freeman. Is that just a kind of a front for the goy, or is that just, or But I mean, I guess it's
someone
two
like Lex
part.
Friedman is
Yeah.
already like buddy with organizational Jewry, and he's supporting them on important issues. So I mean, to be progressive, like, so if you are a single Jew, you leave the fold, and then you start not towing the party line, the Jewish community might turn against you, might try to, like, don't listen to him, prevent you from having Gentile contacts. But once you're successful, then they might try to ruin you, especially if you're not towing the party line. But if that's not successful and you gain enough power contacts, then you could negotiate a deal with larger issues. So because Zionism is so important, so like the gay mafia or something like that, says, okay, we're going to accept your gay mafia stuff, as long as you toe the party line on Zionism or like the war or certain issues. So like you have to gain enough
It's
power.
kind of like a Jewish deep state.
Well, because it's a power game. And these dynamics are not just with Jews. This would apply to anybody. Like even you as like a white person or something, whatever, like your church, like if you gain enough of a following or power, you'll be able to negotiate that power with groups, and there'll be certain issues that you could negotiate. I mean, just like parliamentary politics, you're going to need a coalition on certain issues. And if you have enough followers, you're going to be useful to the coalition. And there's going to come a time where there's going to be one issue that's so important that that they will be willing to include you in the coalition, despite all their disagreements with you, as long as you toe the party line on that one issue. And then once you do that, then you're part of the coalition. So I mean, that applies to any form of power group dynamics, not just Judaism.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but in the Bible it says that in the end times all churches will be corrupt and stay away from the churches. So.
Hang on, John. John, you don't need to keep on justifying your weird hippie spiritualism.
I'm talking mostly like pure.
Yeah, but David came in like guns a-blazing.
Yeah, but David, I wanted to ask you a question. Like you said that those who leave the Orthodox Jewish identity, as it were, tend to create more like revolutionary sects of Judaism or whatever, or revolutionary ideologies, as it were. Does that translate to like Epstein at all, or like do you think that's what happened with him, where it's just like a lost sheep, gone astray, just like lost his identity and found it in something else?
No, I'm saying that, God forbid, like, no, I mean, he was intricately connected with organized Jewry at the highest level. But like, yeah, I mean,
Epstein.
Yeah, but at some point, like, I mean, he was always affiliated. But I mean, once you're useful, once you have something to negotiate with and have a power base, a money base, some use, then you can negotiate that with the organized community for important issues. Because like organized Jewry, you were still a minority in the world. Israel is still in a precarious situation. And so there's always things that come up where they need a larger, broader coalition. And
right. And that's where people like
and saying they will bring you into the larger coalition if they need you. And so like Epstein was, whatever he was doing, he was still part of the larger, broader coalition of organized Jewry. And so they might say like, okay, like he wasn't like, I mean, he wasn't, maybe he might have been a synagogue member. I mean, he donated money to federations, to charities. He had, the majority of his circuit was Jews. And so also you have like the revolutionary, and so I mean, it could even come to a level of, like mafia or crime where, God forbid, like, if it's sex trafficking, tax evasion, assassinations, political stuff where, the organized Jewish community somewhat outsources their dirty work to someone like Epstein, because one of the key things the organized Jewish community, why it's top heavy, not all groups are like this, but a lot of different groups are, specifically Jews, is the power of minority is to speak through a unified voice. So if the organized Jewish community has its leaders, and those leaders negotiate with the elites of the larger secular society, the government officials, the business leaders, and those negotiations work better if you do it through a unified voice. And so, if Epstein's dealing with like Clinton, politicians, the government, business leaders, um, you could force your way in, like Ben Shapiro or other people, to be the spokesperson for Judaism, and at a certain point they'll like acquiesce, like just like YouTube or something. Like if you have 1,000 live viewers, um, people will want to get in front of the crowd. You could probably get like a politician on your show to interview you, and they're gonna like, oh, who is this guy? Okay, he's a little bit sketchy, but he's got 1,000 viewers, and I need votes. So as long as, or like if you're selling books or business wise, so a lot of times these subversive Jewish movements gain, if they're successful and gain power or money or influence with important Gentiles, regardless of how they do it, then they could become the liaison for the organized Jewish community to those powerful Gentiles or politicians.
Right. That's really interesting. Like
That's group dynamics. I'm just explaining this in terms of the Jewish
No. That's
I
appreciate
group dynamics that would apply to any group.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even as like if you're like a white nationalist or something, like everybody hates you, but if you have a power base and then you develop powerful connections, and like next thing you know, like you got your thousands of people and you're negotiating with like the Chinese or the Indians, and they like you, and like if the legitimate community needs a liaison and you're the best representative, depending on the situation, they'll go with you.
Right. Yeah, I heard this quote that I think that is my favorite quote about Jews. The Jews are like all other people, only more so, which I think applies to this situation.
Yeah, you just talk about a generic population power dynamics. It applies to all people, and they say, well, the Jews have a lot of power, are specifically good at it, but these principles, if they're true, they apply to everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
Does Jack Beastwood have an opinion on these matters?
Yeah, Jack, do you have an opinion on this, on organized Jewry, as it were? No, he remains muted. David, well,
it could be the same. Even John, just like connections in Islam. That
yeah.
I'm saying, like, you could be the liaison to the Islamic community. It was like that guy Islam for Europeans or something. Like you convert to Islam, you go to the mosque, enough people, and like eventually, like election time will come, and something will come up, and they'll need a liaison to the community. And if they don't have anyone better, they'll choose you. Even if you're dirty and corrupt.
Just so long as you can like get a crowd riled up, I suppose. Yeah, that does apply to most people.
Well, it's utilitarian. Like if you could do their use. I mean, it could even be something small like business.
I guess maybe in a past life I've done that, but not this life. I don't know. I've flirted with it, but like,
even just as a business level, like, okay, like I'm selling something, you're part of a community, and maybe they want to buy what I have to sell. So I mean, any form of politics, business, power dynamics. I mean, Greg Johnson was mentioning that, I don't know what the actual study quoted, but like Jews by nature have like a exponentially larger network than Goyim. And just like a natural tendency, like priestination to network, that Jews have a natural tendency to network and leverage that network and to keep people around, and to say like it's in your best interest to kind of phrase things like, okay, like I know you don't really like me, but I could do things that are in your best interest, and like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type negotiations that Jews, Talmudic logic, or natural group strategy tend towards, that specifically Europeans tend to be very weak in. Like I was talking to like Stephen James, like I was saying, like Elon Musk probably like is legitimately a Philo-Semite, and one of those reasons is like Jews, not all Jews, but Jews have a tendency to just like get around and talk about money and talk about like the path to power. And like a lot of like blue-eyed people or like Europeans, like they're scared to do that. Like you can't like just talk about money. You can't like talk about how you're gonna like rise to power. And so like if you're like a Gentile like that, where your fellow Gentiles don't talk like that. And then you fall into Jewish circles. They're like, this is awesome. All we do is talk about money. And then like you can't follow like your Gentiles. Like anytime like you try to talk about money, it's like, you get shut down. And so someone like Elon Musk might legitimately in that way be a Philo-Semite. And just like, okay,
Do
I feel like
talk
you're
about
kind of
money a
like
lot?
throwing a lot of Christian groups under the bus. Because
Well, I was
there
saying,
is a
like-
lot of Christian groups, there's a lot of Mormon groups out there, but it just seems
Mormons aren't Christian.
because they don't get
Mormons
promoted by
aren't
the
Chri-
media. They kind of
John,
get
Mormons aren't Christian. Mormons
Yeah,
aren't a
Mormons
Christian
tend
group.
to be willing to talk about networking and money more than other Christians. Like
Yeah,
Christians
yeah, but
generally have,
Mormons
like,
aren't
like
a fucking
fear.
no, but like Mormons aren't a Christian group. They're like a weird spinoff. Like
Yeah, but
is
saying
this-
Mormons have that benefit of like, so like if I met like, okay, let's say we met IRL and it's like, well, what do you do? How do you make your money? And if you didn't answer those questions, like we probably wouldn't become friendly. It's like, okay, like this guy's got some sort of hold up, like, and like if you're a typical Gentile, you might just like, what the fuck? This Jew wants to, like, I'm not going to like, we don't talk about money like that, and it just be, like it's a standstill, but like to your detriment. That that's an advantage of Jews, part of Jewish strategy, and one of the things that Mormons did that you said, well, they're not really Christians, but like they do have that benefit that Mormons might be more likely to just like talk about money or talk about like acquiring power, getting ahead in life, networking, that whatever reason, Christians and specifically white, blue-eyed people tend to have like this phobia of, even like there's some like, like
right. But don't you think though that
struck
there
from
is
lightning.
a
Like if you ask somebody
systemic
like how you make your money or about their financial stuff, you're just like a phobia, they're going to be struck by lightning or something. As where like Jews, like no, like like as I mentioned with Stephen James, like with like the Babs cast used to come in, like we just talk for hours and hours about how to make money.
Boring.
Well, I mean, Judas is a bad Jew in that way. I mean, not all Jews are like that, but it is a quality.
I'm a Neanderthal barbarian Jew.
It's pretty
You take
pretty
like
good.
Elliot Blatt or something, like, okay, he's only half Jew. He's not, he's not really affiliated, but he's Jewish enough that he could just talk about like self-interest and money. Like, oh, like, you could make some money off of that.
But don't you think that white Gentiles have a heavily disadvantage if they actually do organize and they want to meet up in public spaces, that if they have a
it's because they
very
allowed
controversial
themselves,
opinion that they
it's
will
because
be
they allowed
monitored, tracked, and
Well, it's because
possibly
they
thrown
allowed
in jail for
themselves
hate
to get in
speech.
this position. It's because they allowed themselves to get in this position. Like the Jays never allowed themselves to do this. Like
well, I think
it gets to the point like you have to blame the collective at that point. There's only so much an individual can do to try to change circumstances, but that's why I preach individuality, because I can't organize if I'm systemically oppressed, and I can't like organize and have
John, you're not being systemically oppressed. You just John, like you just went on a rant.
I am being systemically oppressed.
John.
And in fact, why is someone trying to steal my identity right now?
John,
right now,
people just
why are
don't
you doing
take you seriously because you
no.
Why?
I'm serious. Like I can't meet up with my friends in public if I have the same like controversial views about the Jewish question or the race question, especially if you're a white straight male. You get demonized and ostracized in the media constantly at nauseum, and
Jackstar, do you have
you have an uphill battle with the wind blowing against you.
Okay, John.
The Jews
okay,
have
Jackstar, do you have
100 times easier than Gentiles.
Jackstar, do you have any questions for our Jewish guests?
Every time I hear the word Jackstar, I'm going.
Why are you trying to conflate to steal my identity?
Yeah, I mean, you might be oppressed in a way, like, because other minorities other than Jews say, like, okay, as white.
Yo, dude, it's not an opinion. Why is it trying to be done?
Like, can you guys just get together and talk about how you're going to get ahead in life?
Who are you talking about?
I mean, that's why I don't.
Nobody's
So
That's
that-
why it's
you have a
you
question?
can, yeah.
Like, there's a-
If you're
But I
taking
mean, if you
John's
want to
point
like
as valid,
have
so you're saying white
influence,
people can't even get together as a group of whites and exchange
Lewis,
best advice on how to get ahead in life.
that's not Lewis.
That's a really loud parakeet.
He has
Lewis.
one of those. He has one of those black parakeets inside his house. Yeah, he's got like a.
The thing you heard in the
sorry, it's just
Jackstar?
getting very distracting.
Yes, Jack Star. We're discussing Israel
You did ask
Palestine
me if I
right
had a
now.
question.
We're discussing Judaism.
Well, should I put on my? I could put on my headphones if you like. Can you hear me? Okay?
Yeah,
It seems like you can't hear me very well.
We can hear you. We're just I'm just listening to Mr.
Great.
David here talk. I'm just listening to David.
Right. Why is my identity being stolen?
because a root, something about branches or not branches, like roots and trees and shit. I don't know. It's a Chinese proverb. I forgot how it goes.
You forgot my identity is being stolen.
No, I came up. No, I once when I was in Chinatown when I wasn't religious. I saw this like really beautiful Chinese proverb about like holding on to your heritage. And I forgot how it goes, but it had to do with like tree.
Say my name.
Something.
Say my name.
Say my name. Say my name. Sorry.
Say his name,
Lewis.
Judas.
And when did you become a Christian? Did I hear you say that you were a Christian?
Yes, I am Christian.
Lewis Wayne is a Christian now. Okay, that's fine. I assume nobody needs to know who I am.
No one asked you.
Yeah, you
Really?
know,
I just
Jack,
heard somebody ask me.
where did David go?
Is
We
it-
were having Jack, you scared David off.
Is it
We were
also
having a
not
good
to know
conversation.
I didn't compromise on the internet.
Jack derailed the whole
Seems like there's five
conversation.
people here, but it seems like there might be 10. Does anybody have any?
I tried to do it.
When David comes back, I'm putting you in the back chat,
Mate,
Jack
this
Star.
is
I'm
what-
sorry.
It's
October
almost as
7th,
though the beeping is causing a problem because then it prevents people from stealing my identity.
like, put some like Arabic
Okay.
and and Hebrew over it. Sorry, dude.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sorry.
Sorry, I get to. That wasn't funny. I shouldn't joke like that. Sorry.
Rahmanirrahim.
Yeah, no,
Thank you
Jack
for
Sauer
kicking
has
off.
one of those nice black parakeets in his house that just chirps all the time. They come from
Yeah,
Can we get
Wakanda.
back to how white Gentiles are oppressed?
The parakeet's like depressed and it's all smelling like shit over there, and his master smells like has to go shower at the gym.
Yeah, Jack Sauer, like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's just
I
straight
always
up
just
like
feel like
animal.
whenever I see Jackstar, whenever he comes on stream or see him, hear his voice, I have to take a shower afterwards.
Yeah, Jack, like I don't like that's
Like when I talk to Jack,
kind of like animal intelligence. Where
what
it's just
religion
like,
is Jackstar?
he talks to God
Is he a
personally. He
Christian?
doesn't ascribe himself to any. He doesn't ascribe himself to any
believe in-
religion. He talks to God. He just talks to God.
Okay.
That's
He
the way
doesn't
to do it.
ascribe himself to any religion. He just like God talks to him and tells him what to do.
Well,
It's his
hopefully
thought
one day he
adjuster.
gets his toilet fixed and he
Ooh.
becomes a no. Was that
David.
Invader Zim DVDs? Dude,
Fucking
do you have
hell.
Invader Zim DVDs? No, of course not. Hospital Shalom, God forbid.
I just sold some books. I just checked my email.
Oh, yeah?
and I said, yes.
How much you make?
Well, thank God, I even sold some more books. I just sold, since we started streaming, over $100 worth of books.
What are you selling? What books are you selling?
Okay, so I just sold Richard Nixon, Stephen Ambrose 3-volume Richard Nixon from his whole life three book series volume, hardcover, $50 plus $10 shipping. I sold science fiction, a set Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. And then I sold a kid's book, the Origami Yoda Files by Tom Engelberger, box set. And I guess there's some sort of kids book science fiction. So
Wait, are you like a book dealer or something?
yeah, I sell books. I have an online bookstore.
Oh,
But I was
that's
mentioning,
nice.
like, I mean, I could see that possibly. I mean, it
Have
goes
you
back
written
to
a book?
like this. I'm trying to write a book, but like I sell books,
Yeah, me
mostly
too.
fiction. But if you're talking like the battlefield posting or saying like, well, it's a zero sum battle that we're in, and he's like, well, you're like, okay, like I want to have a good life, I want to get ahead in life, and so when I talk to people, I just want to exchange useful information about how to get ahead in life. But you say because due to larger societal factors, like as white men, um, you're not allowed to get ahead, and because society's changing and white people already have too much power, and power is zero sum, wealth to some extent is zero sum. So a bunch of white people talking about how to get ahead is it has to be stopped. um, and whether that assessment is accurate or not, but in terms of just useful human organization exchanging knowledge, what's the purpose? Like conflict doesn't benefit anybody. If you have conflict, usually it's best to just avoid conflict. And then if you have conflict, you have to resolve it. And then if it is going to come into violence or something like that, but
I like that. Yeah, I mean, I got some bits and pieces out of it, but like I'm gonna try to write a book about like how to pursue one's spirituality as opposed to politics, religion,
David, what
day-to-day
do you
lives.
think of
well,
David? What
self
do you think of
improvement.
dating?
Yeah.
David, what do you think of dating trans people?
Yeah, I'm more renunciate. Like God forbid. Like I'm libertarian, so like I mean I don't even want to talk about it. But in terms of, like I'm not a hater. So if you're talking like um yeah, I usually avoid like discussing like sexual things. Like I'd rather talk about money. So certain people have,
Goaded,
Money,
goaded,
money, money, money,
yeah,
money.
I don't consider
bling,
sexual
bling,
activity
bling.
I don't consider sexual activity beneficial. So if you're saying like someone like Andrew Tate or something, maybe like personal fitness, like maybe fight training, but you're just fulfilling material pleasures. So you like no
Do you think
man,
there's like a power benefit, like
all
for
those find a
sexual
woman.
dominance?
No, I mean I think it's just a wasteful excursion of material pleasure. So like okay,
Hmm.
like it's good to get married and have children and build up a family. But outside of that, it's I would say it's at best a waste of time. So like in terms of even some like homosexuality, or extramarital sex in any sense, or just regular dating, or even generally casual friendships that aren't purpose based, it's at best a waste of time. And then wasting time in and of itself is sinful behavior, let alone adding on to that uh,
Do you
more
think
forms
like
of.
sex in general is just a waste of time? Like if you're not planning to have a kid with it?
Well, I'd say it's at best a waste of time. So I mean, okay,
What? No,
maybe you could argue it
Right.
has some
God forbid. That's not
exercise
true. That's not
value
true.
or
Y-
health value,
y-
but say yeah,
So
if it's not within marriage, within a contractual marriage, it's sinful. And saying if you're gonna, but sinful is a spiritual uh, definition. So
But Lewis, were you asking what between a husband and wife?
well, I'd say from
Yeah,
any
yeah,
of these
like
factors.
so like
Well,
yeah, that's just what
no,
I'm
he's
wondering.
saying
Like even
anything.
it's
like
at
even from
best
the
a waste
husband,
of time.
at best, like just frivolous sex is a waste of time in your opinion,
What do you mean frivolous? Excessive. No, excessive sex is a waste of
or
time.
what
Right.
excessive, frivolous?
Maimonides
It's
talks about how you shouldn't like emit seed too often. He writes this in his magnum opus Mishnah Torah, and that he writes he codifies that the Talmudic sages really was Ezra the prophet who instituted that men should immerse in a ritual bath after experiencing a seminal emission, but this institution is known as Tevilat Ezra, which literally means the immersion of Ezra, and it was originally instituted because the whole point was so rabbis wouldn't have relations with their wives too often, like the roosters. That's the language it uses, like roosters. because roosters are very promiscuous, and
We lost Lewis there, but yeah, but even
but
within marriage,
the rabbis
Wait.
later said that they changed their minds, but still the pious conduct themselves in this way. But so is but for a man and wife, even if the woman, and there, it is problematic for a man who does not have children to marry a woman to marry a woman who who can't get pregnant, because a Jewish man is required by halacha to have one Jewish boy and one Jewish girl at least, according
Right.
to the
You're
Torah.
the burning bush god. Right.
Yeah, stop being a hater,
But
bro. You could be a little respectful. I'm respectful of you.
Sorry,
hey,
my
like
internet cut out.
I'm not tied to any team. I'm not tied. I'm just here for the lulz. I'm here with the popcorn and to add my 2 cents to it. But
Uh,
like, what about like sexual dominance over somebody? Like, what about that? Like, isn't there like utility in that?
Yeah, the whole idea of penetration is that this is rated R, but is like the man is like overpowering the woman. It's the rabbis tell us that a woman is not supposed to have relations with her husband on top of him. The man is supposed to be on top of her, because a woman being on top. And Luke 4 talks about this in his memoirs.
okay, like God forbid, we don't need to learn the laws of sex.
Okay,
Like,
sorry, Kevin.
I was saying, like, just productive behavior. People should be inclined to productive behavior, not destructive behavior, and certainly avoidance of sinful behavior. And if you don't like take a spiritual theological definition of sinful, just like unproductive behavior. And if you're looking, so okay, you get married. When you get married, okay, you need to know the laws of sex, but like it comes down just an excuse to talk about sex, and it's saying, well, is it productive behavior? Just degeneracy, or what's the conversing with people should be for a purpose. Everything in life should be for a purpose.
I'm making fun of you.
But okay.
But in the Bible, it says, "Be fruitful and multiply."
Yeah, but it's a commandment. But I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, talking about the laws of sex when you're not married has limited utility.
Right.
Eventually, you get married, you'll do it. Like, you'll figure it
just-
out. Or like, you don't need to excessively, say like, okay, like, just say like, I'm not going to have extramarital relations. I'm not in a status of being married. I would like to find the right woman, but to focus on something that's not applicable now is it's like learning the laws of, like, what's the laws in Japan or something. It's just like, say, it's not exactly a waste of time, but it's approaching a waste of time. And then it's also approaching like degeneracy, because like you're opening the door to talk about sex, and then once you're talking about like sex, you're opening the door to degenerate behavior.
Yeah. Let me think here.
It's like Ralph, and I mean, that's kind of like the crucible modern Fox News Republican Party, where it's like like degeneracy is bad. Did you see what these people?
Beth David podcast.
Well, it's something like, I don't need to see what sinful behavior is. Like, you're saying, do you know what they're doing? Do you know all this bad stuff? Like, I believe that it's bad out there, but like, I don't need you to show me. It's like, okay, like, I don't want to talk about transsexual or any
What
of this
do you-
stuff. I believe that it's bad out there and people are doing it, but like, I don't need to see it. I don't need to be desensitized to it, and I'd rather avoid it.
What do you think of Kabbalah?
I love Kabbalah. I mean, Kabbalah is the essential wisdom.
Right. Interesting. All right. Would you call yourself a Kabbalist as well?
Well, I mean, Kabbalah is just a word, but I mean, Kabbalah is, I guess, really just a form of metaphysics.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But like, which gate would you say you're at right now, currently?
Well, because you're taking, if you're a believer, like you're saying, like, well, Kabbalah, there's these deep secrets. So, like, if you say, like, well, I'm studying metaphysics, it doesn't have the same inclination. Like, there's these deep secrets, and like, they're like, as opposed to like Kabbalah, it's like, oh, like, I'm learning to be a magician, and once I master this stuff, I'm going to be a magician, which may not be an accurate view of Kabbalah. It's like, it's just metaphysics. You're just understanding the nature of reality better. It'll probably help you to understand reality better, but it's not like you're like learning to become like some sort of magician.
Right, right. But there are aspects of Kabbalah where you do become a magician, though. Like, you do agree with this, right?
No, I generally reject those schools.
No, no,
Um,
but you admit that these schools exist, at least. Like, you admit that there is, like, an aspect of this,
yeah, I mean, they call
right?
it like practical or theoretical Kabbalah. So there's a lot of books, a lot of people who study it, and there's a lot of superstition, like Jews who don't know Kabbalah. Say, oh, there's deep stuff there. It's like people who know Kabbalah, they could do magical stuff. And I would say, like, no, it's actually you can't actually do anything special with Kabbalah. It's just a deeper understanding. It's like, like if someone knew like high levels of physics or something like that, it might be useful. But so I would just go for that. Like Kabbalah is just metaphysics. That's all it is.
Okay, okay, and that's okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Um, hmm. What about numerology? Do you apply any,
No, I'm not superstition that way. Like um, I'm a rationalist.
right, right. What
So like
else?
no, I mean, like it's hard work. There's no way around the hard work. There's no like special secrets out there that they're going to avoid the hard work. And Kabbalah is just a fancy word for philosophy, metaphysics, numerology has some indicative value, but not really. It's kind of like astrology or any of these other predicting the future. It
Well,
can't really be
the
done.
thing is, my take on it is that these things are real, but I'd agree that hard work is the best way to achieve your goals and not through the,
Not as I would be a rationalist. There's no hard work to predict the future. Like the wise man knows, like there's nothing there. So if you're saying like you study Kabbalah and it's like no, like eventually I'm going to be a magician. Eventually I'm going to be able to actually predict the future. Eventually, like no. Um, and so I say like, yeah, I love Kabbalah. I study Kabbalah. You could call me a Kabbalist, but I'm going to say like, no, I reject all of that. Like there is no magician. There is no secret to predicting the future. You could study Kabbalah from now till then. You're not going to be able to do those things. But I mean, if you claim like most people disagree, most Jews are superstitious about that, and they think that these secrets are there in it. And then at the end of the day, like Kabbalah has like things like numerology and mantras and magic, and I don't find that Kabbalah part interesting. I mean, like
Do
I've
you believe in isometric predictions?
isometric predictions.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe believe they're accurate or not. I mean, there's all
Yeah.
forms of predictions. Like you get higher probability. I'm not even sure I know what isometric predictions. If that sounds like geometry or something like that.
Yeah. It's like basically you have a point, and then through isometrics, it's like you're dropping a rock in the water, and then there's waves that come out both sides, and then basically from that point, it's usually like a pi or like a like a perfect circular number 360.
I would aim towards pragmatism.
You can predict future from you can predict your own life, and you can predict the world's life. Do you believe in that?
No, I generally reject all these things. I would aim towards pragmatism. You might understand life better, make better decisions, understand probabilities. But like now, I would go more with like science and mathematics and probabilities than any forms of these magics. I don't believe in any form of the magic. I mean, if you follow my content, I focus more on straight philosophy, mathematics, science, and you would take the general principle that these things are impossible, and people trying to do the impossible is largely a waste of time.
okay, here's another, like, completely out of left field question. Do you see what's going on in Haiti right now, and what do you think of it?
Yeah, I haven't been following. I've mentioned that it's reasonably likely that eventually Haiti's going to be evacuated, and those people are going to end up in America. And like when I was in New York, I knew a lot of Haitians. There's not that many Haitians where I am here, but Haiti's a disaster. I don't have that many good answers. I'm not following that closely. Like I read the New York Times, the major headlines. Like Democracy Now, some news programs that I watch, but no special insight. But I think Haiti's been on the verge of needing to be evacuated, and the most likely place that they're going to end up is here in America.
Yeah, I think we should just kind of flatten the whole country, personally. And yeah, I
Well,
think
who's
that's the
the
best.
we? Or saying you're just advocating for genocide,
I
preemptive
mean, not
genocide?
necessarily genocide, but like they should not be allowed to export their culture to other countries. Like, I mean, like flatten their airports and their shipping docks or whatever, and just like let them keep their little island and do whatever they want to on there. That would be my.
Well, they had like
Uh,
earthquakes and tsunamis and other reasons that it was disaster besides for the incompetence of their government or ruling system or various things. So like there was already pressure from just environmental factors that was pushing them. I think Haitians are already one of the larger groups that are coming through the border through to America. Um, One of those early like immigration waves was like a majority Haitian. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean theoretically, like I mean, who's the we? And then you're just like, if you were in power, if like you're theoretical, like if you're talking like the best interest of white people in the West or
well,
something,
not white people, like just generally people in the West. Like, I
or
don't,
people in
I
America
don't,
in general, that
like, yeah,
it's
I
going to
don't
be
think
bad for us
Haiti's
if
gonna
they
be.
come here.
I don't think Haiti is going to be bringing any positive culture into America personally. Like that's just my take.
Even like labor, like Mexican, they're not even going to do.
Yeah, they're not going to be good laborers. Like
They're
it's
more
going to be like black people in America, but they're cannibals and into voodoo. So basically, just like a downgrade from already one of the least good sections of our society. That's kind of like my take on the
I
Haitians.
just feel it's just so reactionary, honestly.
yeah. I tend to be positive towards human nature, so I could see that.
I'm not. I'm not. Like, look what they like. They won their freedom, and look what they did with
I
it.
would
Like,
also generally say that politics is generally a waste of time, especially these fantasies like what I would do if I were in charge. And so, like, I usually try to avoid even the thought experiment. It's like, I'm not in charge. I'm never going to be in charge. I'm not going to waste my time thinking about what I would do if I were in charge. I sometimes like talking like predictions. I will make predictions and analysis in order to make informed decisions on what I think is likely to happen. um, but I think that these kind of fantasies of what I would do if I were in charge, they're just
well,
not.
okay. Let me put it like
They're
this.
not productive.
I'm not like making. I'm not like. Let's be real. Yeah, none of us are going to impact policy, but I'm just saying I can't see the Haitians having a positive impact on any form of American culture. That would be my take.
Well, okay, that might be. I mean, maybe say I could argue and say I try to be an optimist, but even if so, like let's say that you could argue that, and I have a hard time defending it. That still doesn't change my point. That I think it's likely that eventually there's going to be mass exodus from Haiti, and a lot of them are going to end up, or even the majority of them are going to end up in America. So you say, well, that's
Yes.
bad. Bad. Like I typically avoid like good or bad judgment calls. Like, well, okay, it might make our lives more difficult, and you're saying, well, it make our lives more difficult to such an extent that you want to advocate and get involved in policy in order to try to prevent it, or saying, well, there's nothing we could do about it. And the fact is, they're coming. And of all the other people coming to America, predict millions of Haitians are going to be coming here too. And so, well, that's bad. Um, it's not that judgment's not helping you, as opposed to saying, well, be prepared. They're coming here. And if you're thinking crime or violence, um, and yeah, God forbid, but take into account. So I don't know if you agree with my assessment. Like even if
I
I think
do.
you are agreeing with my assessment.
I do agree with
You
your
said like, yeah,
assessment
the fact
well
they're
enough,
coming,
but
you're not going to be able to
it's
change it. You're worried about it, but it's more productive. Like okay, you want to have a good life in front of you, and how are you going to deal? You're not going to learn like some Kabbalah or isomorphic prediction that's going
oh,
to
no. I'm not
magically
into
stop
that. I'm
them
just like
from
the thing
coming
is like
here.
I'm not
You're
into
going to
that.
have to adapt to.
I was
Yeah,
just picking your
you're gonna have
brain
to do
on.
your best to adapt with the fact that in all
Yeah.
likelihood, no matter where you live in America, there's going to be an influx of Haitians.
Yeah.
Well,
No, the
why are
Kabbalah
you
stuff that I was
saying?
saying. Hang on, the Kabbalah stuff that I was saying. Like, it's not that I like practice anything like that. I consider it against my religion, but it's just I was interested in what you, from a Jewish perspective, would have on that. This was my main
There's a dispute,
interest.
like that's like voodoo or something. Like I don't, I like Kabbalah. Kabbalah is like philosophy and metaphysics. It's not voodoo. It's not magic.
But
Although a lot of Jews disagree, they consider it like
there
magic.
are aspects of it. There are schools of thought of it that are rather magical and mystical. Even you have to
Yeah,
admit that.
I don't follow those schools.
Okay, but they exist. They do exist.
Yeah, they might even be the majority of the schools among larger Judaism.
Yes. I'm just curious. I just find your thoughts on this interesting.
I'm confused as to why you say that you don't want to. You try and steer away from like this is good or this is bad when looking at them coming. I mean, isn't that exactly how you should be looking at it?
Well, you got no, because I don't think that's a judgment call. Like, okay, say like, well, if someone beats me up or robs me, that's bad. Or like if someone like like if I I meet the woman of my dreams or I make $1 million, that's good. Uh, it doesn't add anything to say that. Like the added like, well, that's good or bad. It didn't add anything. So like, oh, like
Well, I would say I don't feel comfortable with the idea of not only them just coming here, but then they would bring their values, they would bring their culture, which is very violent, like all of those negative things that we don't need to list right now. They would bring all of that, and then they would impart that to their children and their grandchildren. So, and they would multiply, and then you would have a foothold of that type of negativity
Not only
in the
that, but
more
also
of
you could see it like mesh with the already black culture, African culture in
right.
America, which
well,
would
it's like two
be
things. Like it's already
Well,
happening.
you guys
They're
It's
overturned
already
all
Roe
coming
coming
versus
here.
into play
Wade,
to the
so
forefront.
Well, I mean,
So it's gonna make the
let's
ghettos
just
worse.
clarify. They're already coming here. They're already here in reasonably large
And
number. They're
they're
already coming
sprinkled,
in steady rates,
sprinkled. It's
and the
not the
number
same as
of them
evacuating
coming
a whole
is
country.
likely increasing. I mean, we all
yeah,
agree with that, right?
yes.
I mean, I assume all of us knows Haitians. We all know this border statistics. Haitians are one of the groups that are coming in mass, and those numbers are increasing. So whether it's good or bad isn't going to change the facts on the ground. So if it's practical, like you have to analyze it. How are you going to get ahead in life with these changing circumstances? And one of these changing circumstances is all these Haitians coming. And so
Yeah.
just to say, well, that's good or bad doesn't
I
necessarily
don't
Just
think
the
that you're going to necessarily
anything
get
of
ahead. If
value.
you had, like, you could use the pepper analogy. Like you sprinkle pepper into your soup, but if you took the lid off and you just dump the whole thing, it's no longer the same recipe. Like you're not gonna fix that soup. You're not going back. These are gonna go into the poor communities in the South, close to Haiti, and they're gonna irreparably mess that word up. You know what I mean? Change it. You're not gonna be able to walk it back.
Yeah, but the point
But
that
why are you
David
saying
is
they're
making,
going to?
the
They
point that
already
David is
are.
making is that you can't prevent it. Yeah, you can't prevent. It's already
Yeah, but
happening.
why are you
So
saying
like,
they're going to? They already are. They already
yeah.
have. It's already happened. It's just increasing. If you want to say like, well, it's bad, like it's kind of like a subliminal.
Why have an
Like,
opinion on anything?
well, just I think the conversationally, lexically, the good or bad framing is it's a conversation killer, and it doesn't actually lead to if you're saying because it's reality. Whether reality is good or bad doesn't matter.
it just
I think
is.
that's a starting point for a conversation.
Why I say it's opposite is a conversation killer.
Unless you're in politics.
I don't know. It was kind of a starting point for this whole conversation, so
Well, it also like kind of like it avoids the facts on the ground, like just the facts. So the facts they're like they're already here, they're already coming regularly, and the rate of them coming is increasing. And in all likelihood, even though you can't predict the future, in all likelihood, uh, they're going to be however many are here and however many are coming is going to vastly increase.
So what will we do with Haiti once it's evacuated of all those awful, terrible Haitians? Can we have it back?
What's going to happen to the land? I sound like mean, there might be some. Haiti has a lot of problems like earthquakes and tsunamis. So, like, I mean, someone might. I don't think it's going to be heavily developed, and like it'll probably still be black or that ethnic group who control it. So even if like 90% of the population evacuates, even if only
Yeah.
10% remains, they'll probably remain in control of the land, or there might be some development there, but I don't think the likelihood that
So who
we
are we going to evacuate? The ones that are causing all the trouble?
you don't really have a choice. They're going to come. Like, it's like the Gazans. Like, if the Gazans come, all sorts, the goods, the bad ones, they're all going to come here. The criminals, the good guys, the bad guys, they're coming. So some of them are going to be good hard workers. Some of them are going to be violent criminals.
I'll say this, like, just like I don't know, like the Haitian culture itself. It's like I think it's much worse than the Palestinian culture, as it were. Like that'd just be my take. Much
Arguably one of the worst in our area.
arguably one of the worst in the world, like outside of
Yeah.
literal Africa. Um,
It's a boat
Even
ride away
Africa.
to like the biggest shithole in the world.
Yeah, at least the biggest in the Western Hemisphere. But yeah,
So
no,
how many nations are we
David
looking
is
at?
right though. Like this is
Yeah, but
something that's
how's that going to help you get ahead in life?
yeah.
And like, even if you're like looking like, okay, like God forbid, like your neighborhood and like you have violent neighbors, or even so, like God forbid, like my best friend was just killed and raped and tortured. You still be productive, and like, well, how's that helping you achieve your goals or have a better life?
It arguably wouldn't be. It would be quite a hindrance.
Well, I'm saying the acceptance of reality. So even if you were in the situation, like like if you were Haitian, or like if you were suffering horribly, still like to have a positivistic. So just kind of like negative energy doesn't help you. So like, oh, how bad things are, in the, kind of like the value judgments. So just accept reality as is, make the best with it, and have goal oriented behavior. So you're just like complaining about other people, complaining about yourself, complaining about circumstances is like, we'll say, at best a waste of time.
Yeah. Oh wait, she left. But yeah, no, I agree 100%.
And people could kill their life. Like, okay, like life is short. You could accomplish a lot with it. You could do a lot. And I mean, there's a rabbinic wisdom say like righteous people live their days, wicked people the days live them. So what did you do with your life? And say, well, most people waste their days away, like um so like, okay, like talking about sex or something, like just completely avoid that topic. So if you think, okay, like God forbid, I went to public school, I've lived in New York, and so like, yeah, a lot of people, they waste probably like a third of their day talking about sex, fantasizing various things, and you say, well, what did that get them? Nothing. And saying, well, most people waste their days on various things. So just like, oh, how bad things are, it's largely, you're saying minimally, it's at best a waste of time because it's not helping you be productive with life. It's not helping you achieve your goals or goal oriented behavior, minus some sort of dealing with a circumstance. So like if we were living in New York, or just how do you be safe? How do you get ahead? How do you stay safe in a high crime area? Or how do you deal with legitimate constant threats of violence?
Yeah.
Like, I live in Metro Detroit. I lived in New York. I lived in Israel. So like, yeah, that would be like practical. Just like, I'd rather be getting together, just talking about money. But sometimes you have to just get together and talk about violence or safety.
Yeah. Hello, James. Welcome to the.
Hi. I'm joining from a link that Judas sent me, so I haven't talked to any of you, but hello.
Oh, I assume you're a fellow Orthodox Jew of some kind.
No, I don't even know. I guess I'm an atheist. I'm not Jewish. I'm white, European American.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
James isn't that common of a Jewish name, although
No.
these days anyone could be. But
It is a kosher name, though. You like, there's nothing wrong with the Jew going by the name. It's a Gentile sounding, but it's just a Gentile version of the name Jacob.
Have you
Right.
seen?
Yeah.
Has anyone here seen the Cube
Very
movies?
ironic.
Lewis, did
No,
you
I
see
actually haven't seen the Cube movies. No, I haven't.
just for the sake of conversation, and I think there's important lessons. So there's this series of these Cube movies where they're kind of like horror, mystery, science fiction, where basically a bunch of random people end up in this cube where these various rooms, and a lot of these rooms have like saw type traps where like if you mess up, you could get killed. And the movie usually starts off with these random people. They wake up and they don't know how they got into the cube, and they're trying to figure out how they got there and how to escape. And then most of them, you have like a collection, like 4 to 10 people, and they don't know who to trust. Are they better off working together, or can they trust each other?
That would give me
And
so much anxiety to watch.
well, I wouldn't even recommend watching them, but there's certain
God forbid.
less in there from from the cube. Like, okay, like it's kind of like the Matrix or something, but it's not like the Matrix, like the whole system. It's like it's like some sort of conspiracy where like the government or some nefarious force, like you just like wake up, you were kidnapped, and then you wake up and you're in the cube, and if you don't get out, you're going to die a horrible death.
Well, predictive programming.
Yeah,
then-
yeah. I'd say that's kind of like the
And then-
actual Cube, but
and then
instead of
there's
like the
the other-
traps, it's just.
and then
Jack
there's
Star.
other people that you're thrown in there with, and so like maybe you're better off cooperating, or maybe you're better off like having the other people thrown to their death right away because so the movies go on like that, and there's the drama that why there's the whole series. I think there's even like 5 of them, and but if you're looking at like, okay, like I don't know how I got here, it's a dangerous situation, and like I'm just thrown in here with like a bunch of people I don't even know if I could trust, and you're thinking like, well, I got to get out of here, and maybe I should try to work together with these other people for just the basic goal of getting out of here, or maybe it's dangerous that if we try to work together, like I'm secretly going to get stabbed in the back and killed, and because I don't know how I got here, I don't know why they put me here. Maybe the other people that put here are like criminals or horrible people, as in the movies. So it's kind of like a Matrix type concept. The cube, you're just like, I don't know how I got here. I got to get out. I don't know why I'm in here with these other people, and I don't know, should I cooperate or fight? And so thinking the cube, you could look at that aspect in life and how you examine certain things. And then it's like, okay, you're thrown in the cube with like Haitians, like God forbid you're in the cube, and now like
you're thrown into the cube with Haitians.
Well, I'm saying, okay, so that's what's happening. So like
That's the
okay,
sequel.
yeah, I mean,
The Cube 2 Haitian edition.
Well, certain then like, okay, like you're in the cube, like I just want to talk about like the American dream and like meeting a woman, building up a family, my business, filling all my intellectual desires, travel, the basic desires. But like, no, like I've been thrown in the cube, and I'll be lucky just to get out alive without like suffering a horrible death. And so
without getting eaten by the Haitians.
Well, yeah, and so God forbid, like if you look, okay, society's collapsing, so like we can't just, like when I was younger and more idealistic, me and my Jewish buddies just talked about how we're gonna like get a job and make a bunch of money, and or meet the right woman, or different forms that was just like pure like self-improvement, how I'm gonna achieve my dreams in life. And then it's like, but God forbid, the situation became so bad where I just want to get out alive without suffering a horrible death.
I've seen the 1990, the first one. I never saw the sequels, but I thought it was a pretty good movie. And yeah, I never took it that way, but you can kind of see it as a metaphor of just being thrown into life and just trying to
you
do your best in the horrible situation you're in.
It would be a metaphor for Mecca.
So James is the only one who saw the Cube movies. I've seen I saw it was the night. I don't know when they came out. I saw a few of them. They're kind of interesting. They're like science fiction, horror, and they're like a precursor. I think they're even before the Saw chain. And
James, I can't believe you missed the classic Cube 2 Haitian edition. I can't believe you missed that fantastic movie.
The way you were talking about it, it sounded like it was upcoming. Like it hasn't been released yet.
No, there's like 3 or 4 Cube movies or something like that. That's just a joke.
No, I was making a crappy joke about the upcoming
Well,
Haitian immigration.
well, I mean, it is
Yeah,
kind of like a horror
not
story
crappy
to
joke, James. It's not a crappy joke. It was very
Well-
funny.
Well,
Don't
like,
put your-
imagine you get locked inside of a room with a bunch of Haitian cannibals. Like, what would you do
Well,
in that
I have to
situation?
say, I just got here and heard some of what David said earlier, and I kind of am leaning more towards what he said. I mean, I'm around a lot of people who complain about immigration all the time, and at
Holy
least
shit,
online,
this dude is spitting out nothing but bangers, baby, right? Okay, yeah,
too
but yeah, go
harder.
ahead, Jim.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
think David, like, yeah, just at some point, it kind of is smoke and mirrors to complain about immigration and foreign policy and high level politics that don't really probably won't even concern us when it comes to. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna see any interact with any Haitians in my life. Probably not from this upcoming
You probably will.
immigration wave. So yeah, I think I'm not Semitic or philo-Semitic, but I think that is a good attitude to focus on yourself and the people around you in your life. And it is
You could just
kind
go
of, I don't know if I call it a waste of time because people like it so much, but it is like it's very a spectacle, just the way average Americans talk about politics in general.
Yeah, it is kind of at one point just intellectual masturbation because nothing actually changes through these thoughts. But
if it was intellectual, it would at least be valuable. But just the constant right wing complaining about like brown people coming into your country is, I wouldn't even call that intellectual.
Well, there is an intellectual basis in that because, like, in order to complain about something like that rightfully, you should have some sort of argument, i.e., immigration drives up prices and this or that, or like the ideological ideal of what a nation should be or whatnot. So, like, all arguments such of that are inherently ideological and political.
I do have a practical argument against immigration. So it's like talking to East Indian people on the phone.
I just hate black people. That's why I don't want immigration.
Yeah, but it's like even the point, like even if you decide it's bad and it's worth your while to try to stop, you still come back to goal-oriented, productive behavior because you.
No, the thing is stupid. I don't think it's bad. I just don't like looking
up power to stop it, and the only way that you would have the power to stop it is if you acquired power, became a better person. So it's still like self-improvement. Like immigration is so bad that I'm gonna have to go through a self-improvement process to become a better person so I could do something to stop it. So even in that case, you're better off focusing just on self-improvement, becoming a better person, because even if John gives these like banger undeniable reasons why immigration is bad, is like, well, it doesn't matter, you're not going to stop it. And so
I agree.
Self-improvement, because self-improvement you put you in more likely situation to actually be able to do something about it.
I agree. Say, David, do you believe in aliens?
It doesn't matter what I believe in. I mean, generally, like even like this hypothetical, I don't have enough knowledge or evidence. I'm not generally I'm a skeptic, but I'm a skeptic of my own beliefs also. So it doesn't matter what I believe in. If they exist, they exist, whether I believe in them or not. I don't have enough evidence to vindicate a belief in it.
Right. It's very, I don't know, it's not necessarily like a wrong answer, but it's a very Jewish answer.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's a Greek. I mean, it's a rationalist skeptic answer. I just did in my last stream, the skeptics. It's the rationalist skeptic approach. I'm a rationalist, and
aren't you part Scottish?
Yeah, I'm part Scottish also. I mean, but it's the Greek skeptic rationalist approach that I take to almost all intellectual issues.
Didn't you say like you were in masonry for a little bit?
I was never an initiated Mason, but like I like masonry. I like the wisdom of it. I believe to some extent the theoretical masonry is true because the greatest thinkers of history tended to be Masons.
What are your thoughts on the Scottish
Interesting.
Rite?
I have the whole Albert Pike collection. Matt, I think there's the wisdom of the initiation, the right system. I mean, I think there's, so to say, it's true. Like it's more than, there's something more to it than just philosophy, like in an esoteric sense. But I'm not part of vows. I would never actually join, become a member, take a vow. But I have read the books. I think to a large extent, the understanding of, like, when I talk about generic power structures and organization, a lot of that is based on masonry. You're saying, well, just the wisdom of organizing, and maybe part of that includes initiation rites and vows that I'm too scared to take part of, or skeptical to actually take part of, but I could see that might be possible to actually become part of a power structure like that. You would actually have to go through some sort of initiation rite and vows.
Right. So, James, what do you think of all that? Where would you lean on the political spectrum?
I don't know. I mean, I used to be much more of a radical when I was younger. I've started to kind of withdraw from politics and become a bit of a nihilist. I don't know. I almost want to say apolitical. I mean, I'm interested in these things, but yeah, maybe I'll say that. I guess there's just not really a word. I don't really. If you just, capitalist, communist, or fascist, these three. Yeah, I don't really want to just
Disenfranchise.
I've been
I just want to
Like a
label
Halloween
myself
party
with a
now. It's just
word.
like, I dressed up as a capitalist. I'm dressed up as a communist.
Exactly.
Dressed up as
Yeah.
this National Socialist. I'm
I
dressed
think
up
If you
as a
can call
Christian.
yourself
Dressed
these
up as a
words,
Muslim. I play the
yeah,
part. You play the
exactly.
part. Yeah.
I don't mind calling myself a libertarian. Like when I heard, I think it was maybe like 14 or something. But once I understood the system and the available options, I've always classified myself as libertarian.
Well, being a libertarian is a very easy thing to be. Like things like fascist, communist, etc., are like much more harder ideologically to be.
Well, you have to ask yourself, is it? I mean, I hate to use internet terminology, but it almost is kind of a LARP to call yourself a fascist or maybe even a communist, at least in America.
Yeah, I mean, libertarian is the easiest. You just say, well, libertarian is like apolitical, and you're like, no, man, I'm not looking for a power structure. I mean, fascist, like you actually need like a strong power structure. So you're just like, fascist, I want a strong power structure that basically controls almost all aspects of life. The exact opposite of libertarianism is like skeptic of political power, and I don't want any centralized power structure that controls any aspect of life.
Right.
Louis, I'm guessing that you, from the genocidal remarks I've heard, you're a third positionist or something like that?
Which genocidal remarks?
Or just, what are you politically?
No, I'm serious. Like, which genocidal remarks? Like the thing I said about Haitians, hate it. I can't.
Haiti, I know you were joking. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the thing I said about flattening the island. No, that was just. Yeah, I don't actually believe that.
Well, because fascists tend to think in the thought experiment. If I were in charge, so like I'm a libertarian, so I reject that. Like I'm never going to be.
Well, the thing is, I'm not saying like if I was in charge.
I don't even want anybody thinking about what they would do if they were in charge. So if you're a fascist,
yeah, no, I'm just like just with the
Haitians
Haitians
to say like, well, I might not be in charge, but I want somebody in charge who has that power to do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying like with the Haitians,
it's just a good thought experiment.
Like, that's a very
well. I mean, that's the point of being a fascist on the right. You say, okay, no one has that kind of power, and if anyone did have that kind of power, it would almost certainly not be somebody who is aligned with your interest. But you do have that, kind of totalitarian. You want somebody strongman in charge who has the power to do that.
No, I believe in the U.S. democracy actually as it stands. But yes, James, I would consider myself some sort of, as you would put it, third positionist. Although I wouldn't consider myself an authoritarian. or anything similar to that.
You would consider yourself authoritarian or wouldn't?
I wouldn't. I said I wouldn't consider myself authoritarian or anything similar to that.
All right, gotcha.
I believe in the system the founding fathers created, as it were. I just think that system has gone awry in recent years. Personally,
I think the American justice system is the finest system of justice anywhere in the entire world.
very nice, Jackstar. That's
Trolling,
nice.
bro? Yeah, I hope you're trolling.
No, Jackstar is
No,
actually
I'm not
currently
trolling.
in court.
It's beautiful.
Jackstar is actually currently in court for assaulting a woman, so he would know about the American justice system.
I'm not in court. I have charges that are going to be addressed in court, but right now I'm at home. So, yes, I understand you believe that this is going to be used in court. It doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah. But no, James. Like he has like first-hand experience with the American justice system, and if he says it's the greatest in the world, I believe him personally.
You just have to know how to exercise your rights.
House kick women to concrete.
Certainly more impressive than the justice system here at the Cube, right?
Yes, Jackstar. The American
You are guilty
justice.
and be sentenced in a room full of Haitians.
What's the charge?
We do not like you.
James, you want to see something funny?
Don't you?
Want to see
Really?
something?
Oh.
You want to see a show, James?
I don't think you know me.
You're new here. You want to see a show?
Are you recommending me a TV show?
No. I'm talking about like on this stream. You want to see a show on this stream? You want to see a little?
What happened-
You want to see?
What happened to
the
the show?
stream get a little
A little funny clip.
Yeah. Jackstar, how goes the investigation in New Schwabenland? How goes that? Also, can you move the ball out of the way of your camera?
Yeah, is that like your cat's scratching post or something?
Yeah, that's a magical protection charm that he owns.
Oh,
Actually.
you gotta get out of my face.
Yeah. Well, since he decides to be uncooperative
I hate that
for once.
superstitious shit.
Well, since he's decided to be uncooperative for once, yeah.
Silence implies guilt in the court of Cube. Jackstar, you are now forever sentenced to a room full of
I'm not
Haitians.
silent. I just can't find my camera.
Okay.
Maybe you should move the ball out of the way of the camera, Jackstar.
I've heard of people having this problem before, and it didn't make any sense. They were like, I'm on my computer, I have a camera. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then I realized what that meant was that their feed was already committed to something else.
Move the ball out of the way.
I can't do that.
Yes,
That'll
you
start a warp
can.
core breach. That'll breach the warp core. Which is a euphemism, but nevertheless, I'm not going to move it.
What's the
James,
point of having your camera on if we can't see you?
Well, it creates a solid link, so I can't be spoofed and triangulated.
Okay, smart
Well,
thinking.
your fucking computer can see me.
James, you want to see? Like, James, please just ask this man some questions. Like, I know you're new here. Please just ask Mr. Jackstar something. Just ask him anything.
What are your thoughts on Nazi mysticism? Was that the wrong question?
No. He's just processing it. Jackstar, did you hear him? His audio.
I can ask a different one.
No, his audio's messed up right now. Trust me. If he heard
me, he would have been going off right now.
Yeah, if he actually heard you, he'd be fucking rambling right now.
Okay,
yeah.
I tried to pitch a good one.
No, this guy, like, you can like ask him the most innocuous question ever, and he will give you the most bullshit you've ever heard in your life.
So is this your YouTube channel, Louis or Lewis?
Yes. Or it doesn't matter what you want to call me. Yeah, I'm good either way.
Okay. I know a guy named, so I just immediately think Louis, but if it's Lewis, I can call you that.
It's fine either way. I don't care. It's up to you. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah, no, this is like my YouTube channel. I usually do like I don't know, like live streams and stuff. I usually just like upload stuff that we record onto Telegram from Telegram up here, but sometimes we do live streams. And Judas, you do it. I wanted to pick his brain on a few topics, so it's basically
You don't
what
normally have like Duvidism's regular.
This is my first interaction with Duvid on my live stream, and my first interaction with him in quite a while, actually, on any live stream.
I have to say that's why I came on, because I'm familiar with Duvid slightly, but yeah, he's an interesting guy. So
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. I find it really funny to me. Jackstar, mute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
You're
thought you were asking
echoing.
questions.
You're echoing again. You have.
Is that what I'm doing?
yeah, oh my god.
Okay, just so that you know, Jackstar owns like 10 different devices, and he has them like all around him constantly. So they will form a feedback loop and do that if he activates multiple devices at once. He's just I don't know how to describe him. He just like hangs around. I don't know. He's funny.
So would you say this is like a how would you give the elevator pitch for your YouTube channel to me as a newcomer?
I would say that it's a very poor elevator pitch, personally, due to the fact that Duvid is currently off selling books on Amazon or something, and Jackstar is fresh out of court. Yeah, so yeah, I'd say it's a very bad pitch, so I do apologize. Definitely. But yeah, more or less.
I'm the chaplain.
Yes, and there's Judas Chai doing Judas Chai thing.
Yeah.
Judas Chai. Well, it's really high.
I promise you that if you actually, I don't even fucking know. People get turned off by Jackstar because he's
I make vaping look sexy.
Yeah, no, Jackstar is a fucking mess. People tend to get turned off by him real quick, but who knows? Some people like him. I think here.
He doesn't really seem like my kind of guy, but it's all right.
Yeah, pick Jackstar.
He's muted right now. He's just like,
it's just basically like this channel is like a whole bunch of like different people with different ideas on the internet come on here
It's pretty much
and literally like interviews them, and
it's the international like League of Racist Friends or some shit.
Well, it's kind of like the International League of Racist Friends, but instead of being racist, we're all like, believe the Earth is flat and believe that like God.
I don't.
I don't either, but a lot of people who go follow
high school group was against the principal.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I know. It's Jackstar summoning his primal magic.
No, it's really somebody just fucking with the audio.
Jesus Christ.
Shut off one of your devices, Jackstar. You can't have your phone and your computer running at the same time. It loops like that. You need to shut off one of your devices.
Choose one.
Yeah.
Has Stephen J. James been in the cube? I'm concerned about him.
He's been
missing.
active. He's been active in the cube. Yes, he's been fine. He's just he got like a strike on his YouTube channel because someone porn bombed him, and he's just been busy. What's it called? Busy with like IRL stuff recently. But yeah, he's doing well.
I have a credit card now, so like I can send him shekels, so you can get condiments with his fish and chips.
Very nice. Very nice.
I look forward to sending him money.
Judas, have you ever heard of a man called Brian Grossman before?
Yeah, I heard part of the stream this morning. It was really funny.
Yeah, no, he's one of your people, by the way.
James would like Brian Grossman. James, you should watch that Brian Grossman stream. I put the link to the channel and Norvin's thing.
I've never heard of him. Who is he?
Brian Grossman is an American Jewish man who's 5'4", but he claims that he is actually German, and he claims that the Earth is flat, and he also calls himself.
And he's Jewish.
He's Jewish, yes.
And he's pretending to be a Gentile.
He's pretending to be the leader of the white race to lead us into a new era.
That's gross. That's gross.
Yeah, no, he's
lying about being a Gentile to get ahead is disgusting to me.
he vehemently denies being Jewish, despite like there being
How do you know
pictures
it's
of
true?
him in a Jewish dreidel and stuff, and not like making fun of Jews, but like just straight up worshiping in a Jewish dreidel and things like that. So yeah, he.
I don't know.
Haven't we all
Thing is,
played
I
dreidel
can't
at one
tell if
point?
he's like a literal federal agent or if he's just a very mentally unwell Jewish man. I genuinely can't tell.
He's probably fed.
I'm
He's
always
probably-
skeptical when people call people feds because I think the FBI has like better things to do. Wouldn't you agree?
No, the FBI are just helping pedophiles at this point.
They get a big budget from the federal government, so they have to justify it in some way. So they do these nefarious activities, such as personalities on the internet pay them to make videos and to go infiltrate groups.
I think I'm skeptical of it. I think a lot of the calling people feds has basically just become a pejorative or a way to just easily dismiss someone.
Feds.
Well, okay, here's the thing. James, if you watch that video with Brian Grossman in it, you're going to see very quickly why this man gets either the Fed label or the very mentally unwell label. Like, it's one of the two.
I see.
Like, this guy, he's like, it's very clearly like tropes, and it's very clearly he doesn't actually believe in it, but like, he's either expelling it because he thinks what's it called? Either because he's a federal agent or because he's mentally unwell. That's my two breakdowns on him.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that. Now I know not to go back to BitChute to watch his channel.
No, you should watch his. Oh my god, his channel is so funny. Oh
really?
My god,
I'm missing out.
He made a video like going up to like a public serviceman and screaming at him about how he's genociding the white race. And he's made like, oh my god, his channel is so good. It's
hilarious.
It's so funny. In fact, I've actually like decided that I'm gonna like stitch together his funniest moments and just make like a micro documentary on him of just like him screaming at people I remember.
Humanity.
Yeah.